Well, with that, let's go ahead and begin. It's just past 8:30. I haven't had anybody join in the last minute or so. So we'll go ahead and begin I'll call the meeting to order, and it's a pleasure to have pleasure to be with all of you, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join the advisory council meeting. I think we've got some some interesting items for you today, and also some input that will be needed on a couple of those in our discussion items in that. Our first item of, really our only item of business in that is the minutes from the last meeting, which was which was held on April 1st. It's amazing how 2 months can go by so quickly, and hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes, and I would accept a motion to approve and adopt the minutes from April 1st.
We don't have a quorum, Rick.
Oh, we don't have a quorum?
We don't have a quorum. We've only got 8.
Okay.
I know it looks like a lot because a lot of those people are Uetn staff, but we don't have a quorum for that. So we'll have to hold them over until the August meeting.
That would be just fine. We'll
Okay.
defer that action item until the until then. We'll move in then to our discussion items. Our first item will be a discussion on software for FY23. Katie Garrett is going to lead out on that. You've got a couple of links there. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at as well. And Katie, I'll turn the time to you.
Great, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here on an early Friday morning. I am giving this report for Jen Mauger and Laura, who are not here today. So if you have questions, I'm happy to pass them along, but just know if I don't have an answer right away, we will get you one. So this is a software update for our Uetn administrated agreements. So as you all are very familiar with, our model is to collaborate in the consortium model to achieve cost savings for K-12 and higher ed. So here is a look at some of the data and the dollars that show those cost savings for FY 2023. We're planning on a savings, as you can see here. I'll just give you a minute because I know there's a lot of figures here. And then here's a look at what we have planned for the upcoming fiscal year. July through September, we're looking at additional accessibility software for our Canvas courses. October through December, looking at online exam proctoring. And then January through March of next year will be LMS add-ons and products and some additional things for Utah's online library. And I continue that in through April through June. If there's any recommendations of products or services or tools that we need to have on our radar, that feedback would be appreciated as well. But that was pretty short and sweet, but that's what I have for you in terms of our licensing agreements. Any questions or feedback on this?
Could you maybe just break down, maybe go back one slide? What are some of the, when we look at the higher ed software, the K-12 software, I think we understand the library software, that's mostly the Utah Online Library. But what titles or products are included in either in some of those? I just thought it might be if you've got if you have that information.
Actually, I'm going to hurry and swap what I'm sharing and bring up. We have a page called uen.org/software. Quickly bring that up, and this gives an overview of some of those agreements, the vendors that we're working with. Is that helpful, Rick?
Yeah, that's perfect. It was one of those links, and then you can actually, click on up at the top. You can click on that higher education to see those titles that are associated with higher education, K-12 live, and that. I think this is the entire.
Yeah, and this also has information on who our contact is, for example, with Ally. And then if you're interested in joining this agreement, getting more information, there's these buttons here and Jen Mauger's contact information. So that's kind of a good place to have an overview of the products that we're working with.
Katie, I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So I wonder if you could just update us on the Canvas funding for higher ed, because I know we did the legislative ask, then we got CARES funding because that wasn't approved. And then it was supposed to be another ask. And I think I just got lost in all of the conversations over the last couple of years. So just wondering if you could give me a status of that for higher ed.
That is a great question, and one that I will pass along to Laura and Jen. I will ask that she send out an update because I'm guessing that everyone else has a very similar question.
Any ideas if we're any licenses or agreements coming up to their end that we're either not considering or considering to refund?
To not continue.
Yeah.
I
know that's all the teachers always fear.
Yeah, of what things might be going away. I think with CARES funding, like Nearpod, I know would be a big one. We still have a good, probably should have a good 2 or 3 left on that.
Yeah,
but that's another question I will have Laura address as well.
Thanks.
One of the other links in the in your agenda, and that is also the procurement process. I think it would be of value to take some time and go through that. And if you've got any questions, then to send those to Jen and or Laura. But I think you can see that there are those products that they consider to be goodwill products, institution level products, participating institutions, and stakeholder groups. Those are the sort of the main areas. And there's a lot of savings that we can do if we know that we've got a lot of a product that's being used extensively. It might be good to look at moving it over into something like this, because generally we can get a lot better pricing based on the volume and that. So be thinking of those things that you may be using, that or that others are using. If you don't see them in that product library list, it might be a time to make that suggestion or to get that information out so that it can be explored.
Dropped it into the chat, but I don't know if my VR spot is one that's being looked at or not. We were talking about it on the way home from training for yesterday, and Chris and Joby seemed to think that it was one that was being considered.
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard that come up, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't been.
Right.
Well, thank you, Katie, for that information on the available software that will be available out there for next year and that. And it's good to have that information. And please let your people in your your constituent groups and that know about these things, and to to look at what kinds of products are available in that, because it's a pretty extensive list of different kinds of tools and resources that are made available. And I think it's something that we oftentimes don't look at. We forget that UEN can do these kinds of things and is doing them.
Yeah, and I'll toss in that, we have good working relationships with a lot of these vendors. So if there's additional training that's needed or product changes or something like that, that's something that we'd love to collaborate and hear that feedback from. Justin Brooksby's team are assigned to a lot of these technical platforms and can help provide that training too.
Yeah, and for a lot of those, they've created, self-paced online courses in Canvas that help teachers to be able to get the fundamentals of these things down. Well, excellent. Any other questions? Any other comments on the K-12 technology or the software for FY23?
Can we just get a copy of those slides?
Yes, sorry, who was that?
Jason.
Jason, okay, yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving into 3.2, our next item is our K-12 technology inventory. And I think Corey Stokes is going to be leading out on this.
You see my screen?
We can, Corey.
We're seeing
Great.
the agenda, Corey.
Yep, that's cool. That's what I wanted you to see.
Okay.
Really, Rick, thanks so much for having us come and present. Both Jeff and I were very excited, looking forward to sharing this with you all. We think that this project has been helpful, and we want to continue to share the data, share, and definitely get your input and your insight into this process that we go through. And so we're happy to be here. Rick, thanks for the invite. Really appreciate all that you do to support this project as well. One thing I can say about this project is that it truly does touch just about every department at UETN. We have so many people involved with it. We have an outside contractor, a partner in Connected Nation. We have the district folks working with us to collect the data, but they've also helped us to develop the inventory, data point collection, and the portal and everything else. And so it really is a fantastic project, a true team effort across the board. Jeff Egley is the program director over this, and he's been amazing and helpful. Also, Jim Stewart, who's the sponsor, really has provided great leadership and direction in this, but he also rolls up his sleeves and helps us to collect data and everything else. So there's two items here on the agenda. I want to make sure that you know we're going to be working mostly off the website, but we do have the slides that we're going to be showing. So please download the slides if you'd like. We're probably not going to get to every single data point in these slides today, but definitely want to have a discussion. This is really a time for you to help us, to advise us, to think through some of these things that we're collecting and doing. So with that being said, click on the inventory site, and that is here. We have been doing the inventory since 2015. We do it every other year. If you may remember that, we started 2015, so we've done 2015, 2017, 2019, now 2021. The report was completed in 2022 and presented to the UETN board. We've kind of moved to this format since 2019, where we're actually going out, working with teachers, looking at technology in classrooms, looking at how technology is enhancing education. For 2021, we had folks from Washington School District, Kane School District, and Morgan help us put together stories. We're not going to go through those stories. Please, if you have a chance, look at those things. We have got great things going on in the state of Utah with EdTech. And so we're trying to share those great stories and things that are happening. 2019, we had some other great stories from other districts. So appreciate those folks that have helped us put these stories together. A lot of work from Connected Nation, our partner on this. So on this site here, the technology inventory link goes to the portal. And I don't want to take a lot of time in the portal, but I do want to share just a little bit to kind of give you an idea, give you some context of how we collect this data. There's been a ton of work that goes into development of the portal. We had a third party help us develop it with a whole lot of input from people from UEN, from Connected Nation, and the districts have spent a lot of time with us to build this particular portal. If you click on this link, you go to a login page. This is where a person at a district that's assigned to do the inventory would go in and log in. Once they log in, they come to a screen. Now, the screen that we're looking at here is a statewide screen because I'm logged in as myself, but if they logged in at a district level, they just see the district. We'll go in there and look at that really quick. But for the 2021 inventory, which was really, the data collection process really ended in December, started in October mostly, and went through December, collect all the data. But you can see for the charter schools that we have here in the state, we have 149 charter schools, and all 149 completed the inventory. The cool thing about this particular chart is as the charter schools complete it, we continue to see it move across, so we can track it, we can monitor the progress and the project, and really work with those that might be stalled or having issues. It's really a cool tool here to monitor this through. We've got 100% here. We've got 888 schools, district schools in the state that have completed their inventory. So we have over 1,000 sites in this particular inventory. An amazing task, a great accomplishment to have all sites in the state reporting. Another cool thing, I need to come back here and look, is the ability to go in and look at each one of the individual districts. I'm just loading the data here. I actually had it up, it must have refreshed. But you can see, if you scroll down, you can see all the different districts and charters together. And now we can see the data that's populating, go through and see each one of them, how they've completed the inventory. You have some charter schools here. They only had one school, but you have Alpine School District that had 91 schools that completed their inventory. If I go in here, the portal does provide some great abilities for us at a state level and also for the district level to track how they're doing. And it's fairly easy for us to go through, look at it and say, oh, look, particular school is kind of struggling. We can reach out to the district folks, contact them, have them help us with collecting this data. Wanted to show you this portal just to kind of give you a heads up, give you some context, let you know what we're doing to collect the data, how we track it, how we can really ensure that we have all districts reporting. And there's a lot of work that goes into it. But one thing I want to say here specifically is, once we had the third party develop the portal, we turned it over to the Uetn programming software development team, and they've just been absolutely phenomenal in helping us update, fix the bugs, work through all the details. What an amazing team that we have at Uetn, and really appreciate all the work that they do in putting and helping us make this portal usable and effective in collecting this data. Any questions on the portal at all? Any thoughts on this? Rick, have you ever seen this portal? Have you had a chance to look at this at all? I thought I'd probably just take a minute to do this because I thought it was kind of give everybody a little bit of background of what's happening here.
No, actually, this is my first time actually getting into this part of the portal, seeing this part of the portal, and it just shows to me, it just, again, it's the work, but it's all the work that goes on behind, and I think that I think you've
exactly
enumerated exactly that it's a lot of folks at UEN in various departments and that all contribute in various ways to be able to make this data collection possible. Hopefully you noted when you were on when he was on the main screen that we had of the charter schools, we had whatever the number was out of but we had 100% participation, and by both
over 1,039 I think schools completed.
Yeah, that's
with all the charter schools and all the district schools. Yeah. And that's one of the things I wanted to point out too.
And not only has it been not just on this survey, but on the previous 3 surveys, we've always had 100% participation, which is outstanding. And if you understand data, this kind of data collection, there's really no other state that I'm aware of that has this level of data that we're going to get into. So thank you, Corey.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Rick, and I'll just add to that as Corey gets into the inventory, having that 100%, having this number of years, we're getting some great longitudinal data now that I think really illustrates what's going on with digital teaching and learning. And so this is a fascinating report, and excited for you to see some of this.
Absolutely. Just a couple items before we jump out of the portal I wanted to share. One of the cool features we have is after we get all this data in, we have the ability to export it. It exports it in the CSV file, so we can take that data. Districts can take their own data. Regions can take their data for their districts and look at it in meaningful ways. not just in the reports that we provide. They can actually do other reports and build off of it. And I think Jim Stewart's very adamant and has pushed this idea that this is your data, use it, take it, spend time with it, and use it to help you make great, effective decisions to help students. And one other thing I wanted to point out too, and I'm just going to do this in here, but it really is, this portal has helped us so much since we moved into this, because it allows the districts to maintain their users. If a district like in Alpine wants to add another data collection manager for their district, they can go in it and add another person and give them access to it so they can help, they can remove. It's really helped us to manage this and let the districts have control on how they collect that data. So that being said, let's get into the data, guys. Let's back here, go back to the website. This particular link takes you to the full report, and that's here, I believe. Yep. This is a very long, lengthy report. We have Ray's thoughts on it. He's put together a one-page letter, talking about things that he really thought were interesting in the report. But if you go down through here, there's just a ton of information. The data that we're going to look at is all in this one full report. Obviously, we don't have time to go through each one of those, but please use that, download it, look at it, spend some time with it. There's amazing data in there. We do want to show the inventory at a district or charter school level. We added this to the report a couple of years ago, where to the project to provide a one-page report for every single district and charter school. So we go to this link, go to the site. You can download and look at individual districts. I really think this particular one, this is a state level one-pager, is a fantastic document that we all share. What our technology, just a quick overview, what's happening in the state. As advisory committee members, hopefully you'll use this particular document and look at this and do some comparisons with your own organizations, how things are going. But it gives you some demographic information about the state. We have almost 700,000 students, the number of schools, and a lot of great detail. We can also do a charter school. If you wanted to look at a particular charter school, one pager, go in and look at it. It's the same data collected. You can download those reports. There's a link there to download. Again, instructional service, web services have done a great job to publish all this report. Huge kudos go out to them and all the amazing work that they do, and appreciate the instructional services and the web services team for helping us there. So let's go into the slides. I'm going to jump into the PowerPoint. And you guys can all see that fine? Great. Please reach out to Jeff or myself anytime. And one other person we probably should have listed here is Jim Stewart, but he wasn't part of the presentation, so I left him off. But Jim has done an incredible job in helping support this project. The timeline, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the timeline. We really started this project May 2021, put new questions together based on the pandemic. We updated questions. We did a lot of work on the software data collection. We're going to show you that. I'm really proud of how that turned out. And, really, we collected the data in October to December, and then we built the final report and delivered it to the board February 11th. So it's been out there for a bit.
Hey,
So
Corey,
here's the very
I was
first,
just going to add,
please jump in anytime.
Yeah, we were really anticipating this one. You referenced the pandemic. A lot of things took place then. There was a lot of funding that went into technology via K-12, as well as from UETN. And so there was just so much we wanted to be able to capture and understand what occurred. And so I think that just added just so much more that we could take away from this inventory this time.
Hey, thanks for jumping in, Jeff. Appreciate those slides, and that was absolutely crucial. We actually because of the CARES funding, we had to condense the timeline and really work hard to get those questions in and vetted and everything else. But I think it all played out well. So you can see some really prominent trends here. Back in 2015, we had 0.61 devices per student, so about 1 device for every 2 students, to now in 2021, just a few short years, we've got a 1.32 across the state. So we have more than 1 device per student, which is pretty amazing, pretty cool. You can see there's a little difference between charter schools and districts, but not much. I do think one of the things that I probably ought to mention here is the digital teaching and learning grant that Rick has been really important in securing that funding and participating in that. And a lot of us here in the committee have worked on that as well, or in this meeting. Appreciate all the work there, but it goes to show that a lot of that money is going into devices to support students, and I think that's very cool. I think that's really fun to see the state of Utah focused on that.
I think well, maybe you're going to be showing that trend over time, but when we started the DTL programming, because you were looking at those numbers there, it's when we started, we had a long ways to go, and you can see how in a short amount of time we've really made tremendous progress as a state. And then when you get into the actual numbers of devices, it's really incredible. So
yeah, I think that's a good point, Rick. You can actually see since digital teaching and learning, that's what I really wanted to point out, is digital teaching and learning really has provided devices into students' hands. We can see it through this data collection. So the next chart I think is very cool, and I want to ask the question to the group: what stands out here in your mind? As you look at this chart, what's the most interesting thing that you want to share? Please jump in, somebody from the committee, and tell us what's the most interesting and why it is to you.
I should have bought stock in Chromebooks.
Who was that?
That was Scott.
Scott. Hey, Scott, welcome. Yeah, a ton of devices, ton of the Chromebook devices have been purchased. Look at that jump. And you can see a movement from desktop to more mobile devices. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, in 2015, it was almost even iOS and Chrome devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, just easy to manage and affordable is won the day for sure.
Why do you think that is, Clint? What's your thoughts on that?
Because a district like Garfield with 1,000 students one guy can manage all the student Chromebooks pretty easily. Where iOS,
that management, isn't it? Yeah.
At least traditionally, took a lot of hands-on and a lot of work to make them work right for students. So,
yeah.
Pretty interesting. Love this data. This has always been really compelling to the tech directors and seeing the trends, what's happening out there.
I might add that if you're trying to do quick math in your head, in 2015 when we started, we had just over 365,000 devices, something like that, statewide available for students. And this is just student computing devices. This is just student. This does not take in those devices that would be used for teachers and administrators, which we also track. But that has grown to 888,000 devices. So in just over 4 years, we've added about 500,000 devices. I don't know if we've added that much. And as we look at some of the other things that as you look into this, what does that mean for the system, and how do you balance all of that? So I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I think one of the key data points too, Rick, is we've added all these devices, but obviously we've added additional staff to take care of these devices, and we'll show you in that data. And we've also increased bandwidth and pipe size and everything else at UETN to track this. But that's one of the things that this is so valuable for us at UETN, is to look at all these extra devices. what does that mean for our network? We have to continue to be forward thinking on how to continue to provide that bandwidth. So this is the teacher administration computing devices. Again, I think we see a movement from desktop, non-mobile devices to mobile devices. Very cool in my mind. I love it that a teacher can take their device home, spend time with it. They can have the device, take it to faculty meeting. They can move around the classroom. It does help in my mind for teachers to be more effective. And I love this idea of moving more mobile. And you can see that through this data.
I think you can also see that most teachers have multiple devices.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, too, and we can look at that too. Yeah, I absolutely have a desktop plus a mobile, and I think Rick, was that you, or Clint, was that you that tried to jump in?
That was me. I just curious what the other unknown devices were in that we had a bunch of in 2017, but all went away. Is that everybody's?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. What do you think? What's the possibility? I'd like to know your thoughts on it, Clint. Any ideas?
I don't know.
Yeah, for a teacher, teachers wouldn't necessarily. I know that at one time we bought a lot of those candles.
Oh, okay.
and some of those type of devices.
Yeah.
And so, a big district bought a bunch of those, got rid of them. I don't know. That's what I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Some obscure type.
Doesn't matter. Just curious.
No, I think it's a great question. I'm glad you're asking. Thanks for picking that up. All righty. What stands out here? What's the most interesting thing? This is the average age of wireless hardware in schools. I love this chart. I want to think through it with you all and want your insight. Love to hear from you guys. What stands out on this particular chart here? Again, this is the average age of Wi-Fi access points.
Looks like we're replacing a lot of the 3-year-old stuff back in 2015 with newer stuff now. At least trending that way.
Cool. I love that. Anything else? What else stands out to you, Scott? I can pick on you.
Yeah, you can. I obviously there is a trend there, but I'm also kind of impressed that it actually is sort of balanced when you really look at it. That it looks like we had a pretty good rotation as a state already kind of in the motion.
Cool. Yeah, people continue to update it. Wi-Fi does get updated at a more regular pace, doesn't it?
Yeah. Corey, I'd say, if you just look at the past couple of years too, as we were kind of looking at the upgrades and improvements that some of this federal funding provided, you can certainly see the result of that over the past couple of years as well.
Yeah, these are the two things that really stand out to me. We had an 8% increase in newer than a 1-year-old, so it's actually less than a year, and then a 1-year-old device. A huge jump, a 15% jump and an 8% jump there. That's what we saw, and I think this specifically related to the CARES funding and the Wi-Fi project that we did statewide. I know Scott, I know other districts really, Jason, I know your districts in the Q's region really spent a lot of time and effort and updated their networks. And I think that shows there. Although I actually thought it'd be a little bit more than this, but what I can tell you is that $13 million we threw at that project goes to show you that there's a lot of devices out there. There's a lot of money that's needed to update an entire, state. But I do think these are what I thought were interesting. Any ideas?
I think if you look at that, just that trend there, if you look at that, almost 2/3 of the network wireless hardware is 2 years or newer, 2 years old or newer.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing. Which means that that's probably the most critical ones that maybe may have been replaced, and that you've been able to move older equipment to other areas that don't need as much.
Yeah, and I think we'll see that in some of those other trends too. I think that's a good point.
Right.
I love everybody's thoughts, input here. I really appreciate the discussion. but again, it shows how much money it actually takes to move,
Right.
you know, as a state, all this. So, but I think we're doing well. I think that's fantastic. All righty, let's go to the next one. This is the wired hardware. And I think you'll see that we have lots over here. This is the devices, the switches that connect all the access points and give the access to the students and the teachers. It's the back ends, the back closet type equipment you don't necessarily see out in the schools. But one thing we do know for sure is those devices don't get updated as often. The technology is more stable, I think, and the standards don't change. Just they're in place a little longer. In fact, I think it's very typical to see one of these switches in a wiring closet, 8-9 years in some cases.
You know,
that kind of go ahead.
Sorry, Corey. So one thing I think about with both this and the last, we talk about the new federal funds, but we've had E-rate for how long? And E-rate really is designed for these last two slides. And looking at how many devices we have, there are 4 more years old. I mean, the E-rate life cycle is 5 years. You can't replace a device sooner than 5 years. It looks to me like as a state, we should be taking, with the wired environment, we should be taking of E-rate more than we are.
I love that. I'm going to jot that down. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your insight. Let's go to the next slide. This is a new question that we asked based on the pandemic. What districts, what schools are providing internet access for students remote? And I thought this was pretty interesting. We had almost 60% of the schools reporting that they don't provide any type of internet access for students off campus. We had, the 41% here that say they do. I thought that was interesting. Great data point. This is how they're doing that. Most of them are doing it through a vendor provided, a Verizon or an AT&T hotspot. Purchasing that through all the federal funds that have come down, all the different funding sources that are coming down. I know there's been a lot of that happening here in the state. There's a big push in the state to purchase those MiFis and provide those to students. But we do have some other means too. Some districts and some schools are looking at providing private LTE, building their own cellular network and providing access that way. Some other creative type solutions too that they're using, buses, different things. This data point I thought was great. My question to you is, do you think this is correct? Are we talking, is there only 8% of the students that don't have adequate, do not have adequate internet services?
I guess we should survey the students and ask them that same question.
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe too.
I do interview our students and families, and every year it still comes back anywhere from 15 to 20% of our students in an affluent district who don't have adequate internet.
Wow. I think so. When this data point came back to me as a state, I thought it would be between 7 and 11%, or I thought it was going to be pretty close to this, and so I felt okay about that particular data point statewide. But Scott, I really appreciate you jumping in and saying, is that, and Clint, is that correct? I think it's what we've always said, and I think that's kind of the national trend. If you look nationally, that they're talking about that same type of number. But if you think about this 8% out of 700,000 students, how many students is that?
It still represents about 50-something thousand students.
Yeah, almost 60,000 students. These are real people. These are real students. These are high need students.
8% makes it easy, makes it pretty sanitary and nice. When you say 50,000 or 60,000 students, then you've got work ahead.
Yeah, and usually these are the folks that are at risk, right?
I think one of the things, and I don't know if what the question had with it, but it might be a value in the future to establish a definition of adequate.
We did. It's actually, it was very defined. It was very
Okay.
defined. Yeah. We spent a lot of time working through that, Rick. I think that's a really good point, though. Yeah. So this is why they said they didn't
We have a
have
comment.
access.
There's a comment in the chat from
Okay,
Brad.
do you want to? I do not
Yeah,
see it. What's the? Help me read. I don't see it. I can't see
Affordability.
it. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think the numbers are probably pretty accurate. It is definitely an affordability issue, not as much as an accessibility issue. When COVID first hit, we started offering free service to students that didn't have it, and it was K through higher ed. And if they didn't have service, we would just turn them up or we'd increase their speeds. And we did over 400 students in a short amount of time, and we didn't build a single bit of infrastructure. So the infrastructure it's there, even in the remote areas, and it definitely becomes the affordability. And we are working with the legislature. I know CenturyLink, Comcast, all of the rurals we are, and with the Public Service Commission and things like that, so that, Lifeline on broadband can be addressed too. Because the infrastructure for the most part is there. There is going to be little pockets where it's not. But it's very, and this 400 students was just Centricom. So just the central part of Utah. And I do have the numbers that I can provide to the group for all of the rurals, and then Comcast and CenturyLink both share their essential offerings too. But so that's one we're pushing on really hard, and we would love this group's support on that to address the affordability too.
I'm glad you spoke up. I do know all the rural telcos, and I think all the telcos in the state really stepped up and provided internet at a better price, or at no charge in some cases, and more bandwidth. Fantastic what the telcos did here in Utah. That needs to be stated. Fantastic. Thank you, Brad, for jumping in. I think this is a concern that I have, is a lot of us don't know for sure. Even, the majority are saying, we don't know for sure why they don't have internet access. And I think we need to do a better job of collecting that and helping solve those problems. But anyway.
And maybe, Brad, while we've got you here, it might be of value. Just, I know with the Emergency Connectivity Fund and that there is funding. How are the rural? I know Comcast has their emergency essentials. CenturyLink has theirs. How have the rural telcos been handling that funding, where it's actually paid to the provider?
Yeah, so we all of the rural providers participate. They participated in the EBB initially, and now that's rolled into the ACP. And so it also, and it's a great program. In the second revision, it helped quite a bit, the qualifications and those types of things. It also has a very large tribal component where we build out the Kanosh Indian Reservation because of some accessibility issues. And we were able to build that out. And now through the ACP, everybody gets it for free, through that program, because the tribal is in addition. That's been addressed a little bit. It gets fairly technical on the backside where rural companies are regulated. We are told an amount that we have to charge by the Public Service Commission, and to prudently cover the reasonable costs is kind of the terms that they use. And so they mandate that across the board. And if you don't charge at least that minimum, then they can take away other types of support. And so what we did in the last session legislatively is we actually went down and got that number reduced so that we could get to a point where we offer, even in the rural areas, a essentials package at $9.99, to similar to what Comcast is doing. The nice part about the rural areas is I think you're going to see that even those $19.99 or $9.99 packages are still going to be fiber to the home gig, with no rate shaping, no limiting.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So,
You know, the telcos really have done, they are a huge player in this, and really appreciate that, Brad. So
yeah, the URTA Association, which is the Utah Rural Telecom Association, our executive is Kira Slauson, and she works up on the Hill all the time and works directly with, you know, the Public Service Commission, the Division of Public Utilities, and Office of Consumer Services. And I've been the president. I just recently am not the president of that association, which is nice, to take a break for a while. But we spent a lot of time up there trying to educate, you know, on affordability, not necessarily accessibility, and, you know, so, you know, working with the libraries and those types of things. And so I'm very passionate about this too. The affordability, getting that addressed now that we have the accessibility. And I think you're going to see that there's going to be anybody on a free or reduced lunch or program like that soon, no matter whether it's rural or urban, should be able to be eligible for a very cheap essentials package. So, and I would say by early next year. So
that is cool.
We might want to follow back up, Brett, with Brad, you know, and have you maybe come to our TCC meeting and just talk about these with the rurals, so that they're aware of this affordability issue. Might be really helped by some of these other programs and that. So we'll circle back.
I put a note on that.
We want to help you be able to get that information out. So,
hey, Rick and Corey, I see Jason has his hand up.
Jason, please jump in, my friend.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to advocate for is I've always had a belief that with meeting the need of inadequate service, that we need to work with our local telcos, and that we need to treat internet the same as we treat utilities. We have assistance programs for individuals that struggle with, you know, water, sewer, electricity. We should treat internet the same way, that it is one of those things that needs to be in the home. And what Brad is talking about with the legislature, I think, is a better suited fit for addressing inadequate access in the home than perhaps districts building out their own services. This is just my personal opinion, but I think that we would have a better cost for and ROI return doing it this way than maybe building out our own structures. That's just my opinion, and I know that there's other opinions out there, but for dollar, I think that what Brad is advocating for is a direction to look at very strongly.
Love your thoughts, Jason. Thanks for jumping in. And you and I have had those discussions and really appreciate your insight, obviously. Do great things in the Q's region. All righty, let's go on to some other data points. I know we're running out of time. So this next one is really crucial in my mind. This is cool. So back in 2019, this is actually the second time, or actually we've been collecting this data for some time, I think, or over several iterations. But the last one, 2019, this particular piece of the pie, this 39%, in 2019 was only 9%. This is the one-to-one basis. Students can take their devices home at night. A 30% increase in students, or in schools, in districts allowing students to take these devices home. Obviously, this was part of the pandemic. And I think it's probably changed. This was collected, after we came back to school, this data was. So I think that number is probably going to stick. I think it's going to probably be pretty close to this and maybe continue to go up. I don't know. It'd be fun to see the trends for 2023 when we do this. But I think this is a very important data point here and shows what's happened in education. That it's become very personalized. Each student needs their own device and they need to have it with them at home. There's some other cool data points here too, but I think that's one I really wanted to point out.
I think it's when you aggregate, when you add a couple of those numbers together on that, if you look at, you have 61% of your which is about 2/3 of your students again, that have a device with them all the time. Not all of them take them home, but when they are in the school building, they have a device.
Yeah, which is actually very helpful for personalized learning, right?
And then if you add the other 37%, and you're almost at the high 98%, where there's a device in there there's a device for every student.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's
multiple devices.
That's really exciting. That the technology is available when it's needed.
Yeah.
It's not going down to the lab twice a month, for 30 minutes.
Right. Yeah, and we saw that in the 90s, didn't we? We've seen it for a long time. But really quick data point here, we've seen an increase in support, teacher level, instructional type support, helping teachers integrate the technology. This is fantastic. What a great trend to see this go up, and hopefully that continues to move up. Don't want to cover that one. This is really quick. One of the things when we started this inventory project back in 2015, we were really shooting for one device per instructional space. What we found out is that's really not a good metric to track. What we're looking at is engineered solutions. We don't want to just put an access point in every single classroom. That doesn't work well. There's interference and different things that happen. But we are getting, we can see that we've added a lot of coverage over the years. I thought this was good. We're seeing a trend of outages. Districts reported schools reported they didn't see any outages. Almost 60% of those schools reported they haven't seen an internet outage or a network outage in the school year. It continues to increase, and that's great. Slowdowns also have improved. We're getting less slowdowns. We saw a huge jump in the new protocol, the new access point, 802.11ax. We had a lot of those devices installed. I'm sure that's through the CARES funding. I think this is a really important trend here too. We're seeing in-house expertise being developed, where they can do their own in-house Wi-Fi engineering and designing. I think that's great. We saw 5% there.
I think it's important to note, there's a great effort statewide with group UAG that really is collection K-12 and higher ed that meet regularly, and UETN working to where can we provide the greatest benefit. And so one area we focus on is providing access to training opportunities in this area. And I think it's really helped just
paying off, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Jeff.
No, that's good. Yeah, I just want to kind of focus on that. I think we've just seen what's taken place here with the design within the schools.
Yep. Really quick on this slide. This is after you engineer the wireless network, you install the network. You should be going back in and doing a post-installation, checking bandwidth, throughput, those type of things. This is one where I think at the state level, we need to kind of push and continue to find ways to do this, and maybe some strategies to do these post-installations, some more training that you talked about, Jeff. So I did want to talk a little bit about this, and this is because we have all those extra devices. I assume when we started looking at the number of tech supports per 1,000 devices, we would see that would go down, but you can actually see that it went up statewide. Charter schools stayed the same, and the district stayed the same, but as an entire statewide, we actually went up a little bit. And what shows to me is we continue to add staff. We add technical staff as we add more devices, which is a great trend, right? We don't want to fall back for sure on that. And that's a concern that we always have, is we're adding all these extra devices. Who's going to support it? This has also shown that we increased the number of staff hours from 2019 to 2021, thus the reason why we're still supporting the same number of devices. And this is where we actually see the instructional support hours increased from 2019 to 2021, which is really important. A great trend. Clint, keep pushing that, keep adding, those trainers. We need to continue to do this. Okay, these are the last two slides that I really wanted to get to, and then I'll turn the time back over. So I think we're over time. Rick, I think you gave us 30 minutes, and we're just over that. So, actually, we're quite a bit over this. But tell me what's interesting here on this. This is software use, software tools use in the classroom. It's K7 to 12. What stands out here? I think there's some interesting data here.
This doesn't surprise me at all.
Doesn't surprise you at all.
Google Apps and Canvas. That's all that's what it's been most of my life working with.
Yeah, that's it right there, right? You can see that's the most useful, or the most used, the most critically important Canvas. I think that's a great, and I hope you'll take a look at that data. I really like the way we've got these
YouTube
tools reported.
Corey, one thing that I think is UETN should be recognized and appreciated for is, we just talked about the software and the consortium pricing and the statewide licenses that UETN is working on. I mean, Canvas is obviously one of those critical systems, and you guys are doing that. Looking at like our presentation, Zoom is one of our critical systems, and you guys are doing that. Google Apps is obviously vitally critical, but there's not really necessarily direct costs. So I do think it shows that UETN is putting the money in the right spots. They're helping us get the right software at a state level.
Cool. Thanks for your input, Scott. Appreciate that. Are you surprised about the YouTube use?
No.
Feel pretty good about that?
Because this is grade 7 through 12. I'm not, that would be, it's probably less, I would assume, in the elementary grades. So,
well, let's go to that one too, and that'll be the last slide. This is pre-K.
Yeah. It's still pretty high.
Still pretty high, still pretty used. Looks like Google Apps for Education still really prominent, important. The Waterford software, obviously, we know the state licenses through USBE. They've done a great job with that. Waterford is a huge product. This is what surprised me maybe more than anything. WebEx at the
that one doesn't make a lot of sense. Zoom's really the predominant. We support WebEx within some of the districts, but Zoom's really the predominant, and so I'm not sure what's going on with that one.
And it looks like eMedia in the elementary schools also moved up quite a bit too in the use. Then you've got the instructional softwares, the math and the reading and those type of things that show really high. But I think the way that we're displaying this and reporting this data, I think is cool. So anything else for us, guys? I've taken way too much time, but
hey, Corey, I wanted to just double check. I'm not sure if we answered Tim Benson's question. This was back to the broadband and access and what are the drivers, affordability, and Tim had asked where, is the data taken from? Is there a difference between urban and rural areas, and can we share that? So,
that's a really good point. Let me document that. We ought to break that out. That's a really good question. Break that out between urban and rural. I'll jot that down. Thanks for the insight on that one, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Corey. Hey, the reason I'm asking is because you know where I'm at, and I have a lot of kids that just say they don't have access, but it's always surprising which ones it is that's asking.
Yeah, this is great.
Corey, question I want to clarify.
Please.
This is response from district directors, right, on how they view this software. This isn't usage data from the data collection tool, or is this the data collection?
No, it specifically answers to a survey, and whoever's filling out that survey. And in your case, in the rural districts, it's almost always the tech director.
Yeah, with the group that you meet with us. So
Yeah.
does this report, is there a way that this report could grab the data from the districts that are using, I can't remember, Learn platform?
Yeah, catch on or learn. And yeah, absolutely. Especially if we had a solution that
I think
everybody
when you look at the top apps in Learn platform, it's surprisingly, it's very close.
Yeah, I just was interested to just do a comparison between, you know, that data and this data.
I'll jot that down too, Jason.
We could probably even do that now, just with the Learn platform statewide data that we get.
The problem is the Learn platform's not used by everybody, though, right, Rick? That's the concern that I have. Or catch on. I mean, there's other.
Yeah, there's Learn or catch on that are the main ones.
Yeah, those. I mean, I would tend to think that they'll probably mirror each other, but we could sort of look at what their data is and how many devices that is in, pulling it from.
We can look at trends for sure.
Sure, certainly.
I love that idea, Jason. All right, let's take a look at that. This has been a really helpful discussion. I've got some action items that I'm going to work on, think through. Please, guys, if there's anything that you think we're missing or need to make some changes to, reach out to me anytime. We do work with a very strong project team that continue to provide feedback. We'll continue to work on this. I believe, Scott, you've been on that committee in the past. Are you on it this year? I can't remember, but let me go back and look at it. We're starting to get working.
I know I've offered to be.
Yeah, I think you are. And so, but please, if there's anything that we can do to make this better, we're going to continue to do this every other year. We definitely like the idea of continuing improving this particular service and this data collection process.
Well, thank you, Corey. We do appreciate it. This survey is really important, and the data that we have is unique, amongst other states. Nobody has this kind of data. And I think it really gives us a view into what is happening inside of schools. And I think it gives a great view into what UEN is doing to support our K-12 schools. And so I think it's just it's a very, very useful tool, and very grateful that we are able to continue to get this data and the longitudinal data, Jeff, that you mentioned is really important. That, we're beginning, we can see things and how they've developed over the last 8 years, and that, which is really important as well. Any final comments, Corey or Jeff?
Just say this data is yours. If you want to export it, if you want to play with it, let us know.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
All right, go. Moving on, let's move on to our next agenda item, which is the diversity policy input, and Jen Gibbs will be leading this discussion. Jen?
Well, good morning, everyone. It's always fun to hear what Corey's working on, and that's such an amazing project. So as you're aware, UETN's diversity policy is reviewed by our board periodically, not only because it's a good idea, but also it's part of our meeting requirements as a public media network. And it's about that time again. The UETN board plans to take some time with this policy at their upcoming retreat. And with an eye toward possible updates, we are looking at some other stations' diversity policies, and we've provided links to a couple of them in today's materials. And so my question for this group is whether you have any suggestions for updating this policy. And suggestions welcome now, but also you can email ideas to Laura Hunter or myself.
Is the board looking to update their diversity policy right now? I see it was approved just a year ago, or do they have to reaffirm it every year?
Yeah, we reaffirm it every year. And so so we're looking at ways that maybe it's time to give it a refresh. So we want to invite this group to take a look at it and let us know if there's particular ideas you want to put forward.
Well, if we were at the State Board of Education, this would be at least a three-day agenda item. So, so.
It is really important. And, so this is an intro and an invitation, but that, the board, as I understand it, is planning to take some time with it at their retreat.
Okay. Anything else that we need to do on this, Jen?
No,
other
not at this
than
time.
you've now solicited their feedback, so we can do that. I think you are also the next item, which is Litflix.
I am, and if I may share my screen, got a little update for everybody. So UEN Litflix is now, we've celebrated as of today 3 months and 1 week since our launch in early March. And the purpose of this program, as you might recall, is to get UEN TV viewers and others in the community reading and connecting with library and literacy resources. And to build a community of readers, or to nourish the existing communities of readers. And things are going well so far from the feedback we've been getting. Every month we have a different theme. So coming June is playtime, as in Shakespeare and George Bernard Shaw. And every month we produce materials to support our library partners in implementing this as part of their programming. So they can download posters that they can print. We also have a book list. The first page shows the film schedule, but when you open it, it's a booklet, and open it up and there's lots and lots of titles. The primary audience for this is adults, but the last page of the booklet, we always include a couple of titles for kids and young adults. And at present, we have more than 10 partners who are using the resources and or contributing to the shape and the content of the program. So, for example, most of the titles on this month's book list came from one of our library partners who actually studied theater in college, and as well as literature. And again, this is designed to be grab and go for our library partners, so that they can build engagement activities as fits their programming needs. And, for instance, Manti Public Library used the March campaign with one of their adult book clubs, and Summit County Library is exploring with us hosting a screening and a discussion event. So the opportunity to build, again, engagement events, we've really worked with the libraries to design this to be flexible. And so it's kind of easy for them to use out of the box, but if they want to put more activities around it or energy into it, they can do that as well. One of our partners is the Utah State Library's Book Buzz program, which any book clubs can, check out from Utah State Library 2 to 15 copies for 8 weeks of a title to facilitate group reads and so forth. And so we have a UEN Litflix collection that they've created that has a number of titles, and they're adding new ones every month. And like the titles you'll see on the book lists, sometimes the books, they're related to the themes and or the films. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's just like what the film is based on. For example, The Count of Monte Cristo is a film that we have coming up. Sometimes it's that, for example, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is very satirical and playful in a way. And we paired that as something that if you really like Mark Twain, which we aired Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court as part of our Classic Discoveries Month in April, then this is a modern approach to that, with that kind of playful edge. Just a couple more things I'll share with you about where we're at with this project, with this program. We're really thrilled, and launching today we have for the summer 6 bonus episodes of UEN's podcast for educators, UEN Homeroom, that are going to have a special Lit Flicks theme. So since they're taking summer break, we thought we'd have some extra fun with these episodes. So the first one is how to watch classic films with Julie Gale. And other topics that we have coming up, we have 2 interviews with authors who have strong Utah ties, and talking, about how they come to their work for different topics. We also have interviews with public libraries, librarians on how to support a community of readers, and also with a researcher on how to help young readers build their literacy skills and their pre-literacy skills. So we're really excited about that and about the conversations that we're having. And then last, I want to share with you one of the main, I guess I'd say one of the main accomplishments that I want to share with you is our equity, diversity, and inclusion preview process that we have launched as a result of this, as part of this project. So, we're airing classic films. They often depict outdated cultural norms. We think there's huge educational value in that, and as well as entertainment value. But many TV viewers are now expecting content advisories for a wider range of depictions. So we've implemented a process where a team of UETN staff participate in a training. This is voluntary. They participate in a training. They sign up to preview a few films every so often, every couple of months or a few months. And then they flag any potential concerns that we then process together and discuss as a team. And most of these films, most issues that we find are addressed by a special content advisory, such as smoking and or alcohol use, or death or dying or something like that. And we've now processed more than 40 films together as a team. And in addition to helping us take care of our viewers, this process has really been a great catalyst for building team awareness of what kinds of things can concern different viewers. It's been really a great opportunity for us to just kind of get to know each other and get to know our audience's needs better. So the last thing I'd like to say with you all is that we are considering outreach to school libraries and language arts and media educators, and wanted to invite your feedback on anything regarding the program, but especially what you might think about of us reaching out to that K-12 audience.
Well, Jen, I was just thinking about, have you reached out to Naomi Watkins at USBE?
We did, and actually, we invited her to appear on the podcast, but it was a busy time for her.
And we also have a new library media specialist that just started. I can't remember who it is, but Naomi will know.
I'll reach out and connect.
Yeah, you might want to, just to make sure that they're aware, and maybe come up even with some flyers that they might be able to post on or send out electronically or something to, for teachers, and that they've got some great distribution lists, on their listservs and that, so they can really get a lot of information out and get more people to be aware of this. I think it's great what you're doing. So congratulations.
Well, thanks a lot. I'll pop a link to the podcast into the chat, and have a listen. Katie's, Garrett's producers, and our colleague Matt Winters over in professional development, I think did an amazing job helping make this podcast what it is. So check it out, please.
Anybody have any other comments or input for Jen?
I think it's just great what you're doing.
Thanks, Diana.
No, I think film is a great way into a lot of hard topics. So I think that's a really great idea about extending this.
Yeah, I do too.
Awesome. Well, thanks again.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jen. We appreciate the good work that you're doing. I'm just going to play with the agenda in our last 10 minutes. I want to move up the round table to be the next item, because we have a number of you representing various. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up today for the advisory council or for UEN staff to consider, as we have a lot of the staff that's on as well today? And I'm not going to go around and call on people individually. I'll just open it up that if there's anything that you want to share about anything that you may be doing, that would also be great, or any questions or things that you would like to learn more about. It's your time.
I'll just make a plug for the UETN Tech Summit coming up.
Yes, that will be is it the 22nd and 23rd?
It is, yep, at Murray High School.
Yep. It's a great learning opportunity in that, and I will be there as well. So, but it's a great time to be able to more focused on the technical side of things, but not exclusively.
So the Utah Rural, oh, sorry, Rick.
Go ahead, Jason.
Utah Rural Schools conference in Cedar City. It is full. If you haven't registered, we might still be able to get some of you in if you want to come. But from my understanding, all tickets have been sold. But we are also going to be recognizing Director Ray Timothy with an award as a friend of rural education. And Duke and I met with Ray a couple of weeks ago and presented him with the letter and invited him to attend the awards ceremony at the luncheon on Thursday. So just giving a shout out for Director Timothy.
Jason, thank you. That's well deserved for Ray and that, because he really has been a great friend of rural education. Might have something to do with his roots in that. Any other items? Then I will back up to 4.1, the committee reports. Do we have anybody from the USHE TTC that wants anything to present? And the C Forum group, Clint, do you have anything you wanted to share?
Not much. Had a good meeting in Cedar City with everybody a month and a half ago or so, about a month ago. Ed camp after that went well. Just, I think we're all relieved that we got our teachers to the finish line for this summer. They need a break. So,
You know, it's been a tough year for teachers. I'm sure both for higher ed and I'm sure, and I know for K-12 and that. The State Board of Education was going to be sponsoring a standards implementation institute this year. But it ended up being canceled. Just teachers just were not willing to give, and understandably so. They've just had so much that's been on their plates that they just need a break. So for most schools, today is the last day. There might be a few that will go into next week, but I think most are done. Academic Library Consortium, do you have any items?
No items. And I'm sorry, I was a little bit late. I was having some technical issues this morning, but did we have any updates on the online library RFP going out and where we are on that?
We have not done any updates. Did you want to provide anything? I mean, I know the committee is had its initial meeting, a week or so ago?
I'm not involved with that committee, so I just was curious where we were on that. So,
well, it's one of those where the contract really expires, more than a year from now, but it's one that we've started. The work I know has started, because I was invited to be on at least to be on the committee and so they'll be meeting regularly and over the next few months to decide exactly how we want to do this, whether it's going to be everybody together, if there are going to be some, different constituency groups and that will work. But obviously, we're looking at all of the, I think, at least the big contracts with EBSCO and that I know is definitely up. So the process has started. I can tell you that much.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
it's going to take a long time.
And we're happy to be involved. However,
I'll make sure that Laura knows and others know as well. So.
And we may be, when I mentioned that our last council meeting, no one was aware, but we have the resource sharing, well, not the resource sharing, sorry, the collection development committee that may be involved, and that would be where we would probably want our involvement. I also wanted to for those of you who may know, we have the Mountain West Digital Library, which is a project where we have digital collections from the different institutions, as well as local collections that we work with hub partners on. We have a new director, or an interim director, for Mountain West Digital Library at the moment, and that's Teresa Hebron, I believe is her name. I had a momentary lapse. I think that's her name. So in case anyone works with her, or if you're interested in that collection at all, I'll promote it as well. It's a great resource for different primary source materials that may be useful in a number of different settings. So that's all I wanted to share from UALC. Okay,
thank you. Scott, anything from TCC? I think the inventory pretty hit a lot of the things that we talk about. So,
yeah, I don't know that I have anything separate.
And then I didn't see state libraries here, so she probably would have updated us on the online library proposal and that. So I think that pretty much takes us to the end. There is 4.2 recent video productions in that. Hopefully you've clicked on that. Of note, many of you have probably over the years have worked with Charisse Carroll, and Charisse is one of the new featured videos, and that it's part of the Humans of UETN, and I think it's a great tribute to a long career of helping schools and institutions across the state, as in the work that they do with interactive video in classrooms and that. So I think it's one of note to do, along with many of the others. We've got quite a production team going on. Katie, I'm assuming a lot of that's work that you're involved with.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's been so fun to be a part of that. And I'd also suggest checking out our last episode of PDTV for this school year on the 4 C's.
Oh, okay. So thank you for that recommendation. We'll look. I think that I'm just really blown away by the amount of content that you're producing. So congratulations to you and your team. But do take advantage and to share these resources, and that there's a lot of really good learning resources in that. I was just looking at some of those on mathematics education, and that I happened to note that I could see some faces from my office and that I'm familiar with, and the work that's being done there. So thank you for that work and what you are doing. And with that, that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting. Our next meeting will be on Friday, August 5th. And Denise, I'm assuming you'll be getting out additional information as we get closer to that time. If you have any items that you would like to have discussed or shared at the at that meeting, you may contact Denise. You can contact me. Leslie is also the vice chair, Leslie, of the committee. You can contact her, and we'd be happy to make sure that those items get onto the agenda and that.
Rick, may I ask a quick question?
Yes.
As we were talking about the diversity, we were talking about a board retreat. There have been times that they've asked the committee to join or invited. Is that something that we should be considering?
Yes,
Denise,
but we don't. Yeah, nothing has been finalized yet because we don't have the new director in place.
Got it.
So I believe they're going to be waiting until the new director is placed, and then the leadership team, along with the board chairs, will get together to determine where and when in August for sure. It is tentatively scheduled, but it's just not confirmed. But yes, the council.
Was it for August or October?
Well, they were
we
hoping
don't
for
know.
August. At this point, it may be pushed back to October. We really don't have a firm date yet.
Okay.
So due to the changing of the guard.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you, Denise. That's helpful to know, and thank you, Scott, for asking the question. If there's a change, we will get that information out as soon as we can. So, well, thank you all. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for those that presented and for the information that you shared. May you all have a wonderful rest of the day and a great start to your summer, and we'll see you at our next meeting.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, everybody else.
Bye.